Hey y'all. Welcome to MS Plain Talk.
This is where we talk about multiple sclerosis and the signs and symptoms of MS in what we hope is easy to understand plain English.
I hope y'all are doing okay today. Unfortunately, living with this monster known as MS, there are a lot of things going on in and with your body. With difficulty moving around and fatigue, we have to be on the lookout for blood clots. Blood clotting is a healthy course that normally takes place in response to impaired tissue integrity.
It is a life-saving defense mechanism towards stopping bleeding. However, when blood clot forms unnecessarily, it can cause serious medical problems such as heart attack and stroke. When this happens, the functionality of the heart and many other parts of the body will be negatively affected.
With a clot present in the artery that supplies blood to a body organ, the affected organ may cease to function properly. Clots can be a real problem for people with MS, as they may form in your arms or legs we may not be moving them as much as we should. So why don't we look at this problem? Let's get started.
Hey everybody, welcome back to MS Plain Talk. I'm Fred.
I'm Cassie. Hey Fred.
Yeah, Cassie?
Have you heard the joke about the bed?
No, I haven't.
That's because it hasn't been made yet.
People with multiple sclerosis may be twice as likely to develop deep vein blood clots, a condition known as venous thromboembolism, than healthy people do, a study reports. But data linking the two is limited, and its researchers say further work is needed to understand if MS is directly related to venous thromboembolism, or if this condition is a secondary effect of limited mobility. The review article, Multiple Sclerosis and the Risk of Systemic Venous Thrombosis, a systematic review, was published in the journal Multiple Sclerosis and Related Disorders. A loss of flexibility and range of movement in the body or joints called hypomobility is a known risk factor for venous thromboembolism. In this condition, blood clots form commonly in the deep veins of the leg, groin, or arm, and travel in circulating blood to lodge in the lungs. Certain neurological diseases are associated with partial paralysis and venous thromboembolism, including spinal injury and stroke. Research into the incidence of venous thromboembolism in MS patients has only skimmed the surface. MS has a range of clinical features, such as disease type, duration, and severity, that could be associated with a higher risk of venous thromboembolism.
Researchers at Oxford University Hospitals and the Royal Berkshire NHS Foundation Trust examined how often venous thromboembolism occurred in MS patients. To do so, they compiled clinical data going back to the 1950s and compared MS patients with healthy individuals. Their literature review found 10 MS studies looking at the risk of venous thromboembolism. Of these, 6 studies involved large cohorts, more than 1,000 patients in each, and were included in the analysis. Results showed that, on average, MS patients had a 1.91 times increased risk of a venous thromboembolism compared those without this disease. But this was not an entirely consistent result, with one study reporting that MS had a protective effect and lowered risk. Disease severity, as defined by number and length of MS-related hospitalizations and need for walking aids, seemed to be the only factor predictive of venous thromboembolism. But most of the studies did not characterize MS groups well enough for the researchers to make further conclusions. They could not examine if the MS type, disease duration, and treatment were associated with a higher venous thromboembolism risk. Importantly, researchers were unable to determine if MS itself increases the risk of venous thromboembolism, or if secondary complications, such as hypomobility, are responsible. Immobility associated with severe disease is an obvious risk factor, but MS has also been linked to elevated markers of endothelial damage and activation of the coagulation pathway, the researchers wrote. The increased risk of venous thromboembolism in MS patients could, therefore, be due not only to immobility, but systemic autoimmune mechanisms increasing thrombotic risk.
Curiously, researchers found that steroids and antidepressants were linked to an increased venous thromboembolism risk. Steroids and antidepressants have been linked to venous thromboembolism in the general population and in specific diseases. However, these may be markers of disease severity, and this link could simply be a byproduct of some other effect. Overall, the team concluded that MS patients are at increased risk of developing venous thromboembolism and suggest that there may be a role for VTE, venous thromboembolism, prophylaxis in high-risk patients.
Disease severity, as defined by number and length of MS-related hospitalizations and need for walking aids, seem to be the only factor predictive of venous thromboembolism. But most of the studies did not characterize MS groups well enough for the researchers to make further conclusions. They could not examine if the MS type, disease duration, and treatment were associated with a higher venous thromboembolism risk. Importantly, researchers were unable to determine if MS itself increases the risk of venous thromboembolism, or if secondary complications, such as hypomobility, are responsible. Overall, the team concluded that multiple sclerosis patients are at increased risk of developing venous thromboembolism, and suggest that there may be a role for VTE, venous thromboembolism, prophylaxis in high-risk patients.
Aaron Miller, MD, director of the Corinne Goldsmith Dickinson Center for Multiple Sclerosis at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York City, says that women who use hormonal contraceptives do have an increased risk for blood clots, but that the risk is generally small and varies from one contraceptive method to another. Movement is crucial to lowering your risk for blood clots in the veins, he says. People should walk to whatever extent possible and not maintain sedentary positions for a long time, Dr. Miller says. If someone is unable to move about, he says, the legs should be passively exercised or the muscles of the legs periodically contracted. Kathleen Costello, Vice President of Healthcare Access for the National Multiple Sclerosis Society and adult nurse practitioner at the Johns Hopkins MS Center in Baltimore, adds that all physical activity has to be done with good counsel from either their neurology team or rehab team, so whatever they're doing is being done safely and within their limitations. But even with limited mobility, she says, there's plenty that people with MS can do to reduce their VTE risk. She and other experts recommend following a healthful diet, keeping your body weight in a healthy range, not smoking if you have diabetes, making sure it's managed well, reporting any personal or family history of blood clots to your doctor when traveling, staying hydrated, avoiding alcohol and sleeping pills, taking breaks from long bouts of sitting, and wearing compression stockings.
Speak up. Don't give up. Anyway, thank you for joining us here today on MS Plain Talk.
I'm Fred. Do not resent growing old. Many are denied the privilege.
And I'm Cassie. Wishing you a pot o' gold and all the joy your heart can hold. Hope to see y'all soon.
I hope you have a great week and that we will see you soon.